not my finest hour. But it wasn't the worst disaster that ever happened to me in my life. And we'll get through that after a while. I'm so glad to be here. Have been very nervous about this. The subject is tough. Mile-high leadership in a sea-level world. What's character got to do with it? Every good and bad thing that ever happened to me was centered around my poor or good character. And we'll center in on that pretty hard today. As I said, I was a little nervous, and then I started seeing people. The good thing about your friends coming, the good thing is they came, and the bad thing is they came. There's some people in here that know me really well inside and out. They know the shade of my character. They've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. But I'm still glad to be here. I congratulate you for being here. You know, leadership is a bit like parenting. It's a bit like marriage. It's a bit like how do you act at the boss's Christmas party. There's a lot of books written about it, but few people get to talk about it back and forth like we will today. This is important, I think, and I think it's one of the really key elements of Lunch with a Leader. I congratulate you, Jeremy, and your team, Jackie and Jonathan, and everybody that helped here. This is important stuff, leadership. Very rarely understood at a real basic level. So my job today is to have a few foot stompers. I hope that you can leave with one or two that'll make a difference in your life. Now, being old, I can tell you that I've lived in 9 different decades. Think about that, Cottrell. 9 different decades. I've worked as an American paid employee somewhere for 8 different decades. And I've been in the space, rocket, and intel business for 7 different decades. And now as a consultant, I get to just have maybe this is the last decade. I kind of like that. That would just work out fine for me. This sheet of paper up here, several sheets, are a result of being as old as I am. I'm going to refer to them probably more than will make you happy. I noticed that $5 lunch, that really gets my attention. I mean, I know you get Chick-fil-A and you get Salvation sauce and all that kind of stuff in there. But I read an article this past week that the Oracle from Omaha is raffling off tickets to a charity that have him and that person who wins the raffle, they go to a steak dinner. Now, it just said last year, he does it every year, last year he raised $34 million. Jamie, we're never going to get there at $5 a sandwich. So I encourage us to make that one of your key indicators this next year. Well, space and rockets are very unforgiving. This one here in 1998 was really bad because of just what was going on in the world and the importance of the payload. It was, I had the spacecraft guy on this side, a customer, and I had the rocket customer over here, and wow, we were outside looking at it. You can't comprehend the space business being either fabulous success, and we've seen so many of them, but fabulous disasters, colossal. There's nothing in between in the space business. And I just started looking back at my life and thinking, that's really true. I've either had the just fabulous things happen, or I've had complete abject failure in business and relationships. I mean, it's just binary. It's one of the few binary things left. And it's really a great privilege to be here with you. Lots has happened since I first started work as an 11-year-old in East Tennessee, where there were no child labor laws. There's one other guy here who, in Tennessee, got 3 months off during the school year to pick cotton. Made $50 in 3 months. They got the school kids out to do it. It's really interesting. So working for my father at started at age 11, I must say, that was life-changing. Here was a guy that had a good business in automotive service, gas, and repair. And I worked for him, it just seems like forever. I learned so much from him. A lot happened when I was 11. Sputnik went up. I asked him what he thought about that. He says, I don't know what that was, but I think it's important. I got the bug to be an engineer right then, and that's what I did. I got the bug for space when I went into Air Force Space program, rockets, ICBMs. I was a crew commander in a capsule of 10 nuclear ICBMs. Just a young second lieutenant, then first lieutenant, then captain. In his business, he taught me a lot of good things. I want you to think about things that you were taught when you were young, just for a minute. We washed 100 cars every Saturday. Can you imagine that? I was right in there in the middle of it, 11, 12, 13 years old. When I brought a car out, the inspector was there, Mr. Dad. He never said, that's the worst job I ever saw. He would say, son, he always started out with that, son, comma, take that car back in there and wash it like it's yours. Boy, it cemented it right in here. He taught me customer service. When a customer comes in, you say hello, you sweep their car out, you wash their windshield, you tell them thank you for coming in here. It makes a difference that you're here. You know, you screw another piece of integrity in your brain. He would say, son, take this little widow woman home in the truck. I want you to open her door when you get there, the truck door. I want you to escort her to the front door, and you don't leave that front porch until that door closes. He had a heart for widows and orphans. Every December, this guy would adopt, let me back up. Orphanages were everywhere. I mean, there's plenty of orphanages in the 50s and 60s, and he would adopt a boy every December, and we would shower him with gifts a couple of times in that period. He had a heart for that. He taught me a lot of stuff, and I know that some of us didn't have that. I know that some of us look back and say, yeah, I got taught character, but it wasn't good character. I appreciate that. My dad was, he was pretty good. One day I was with him, and we were in a retail store, and he bought something, let's just say for $3. I don't remember the denomination. And he got change for a 10. He gave a 5, he got change for a 10. And he said to the guy, no, you gave me the wrong change. And the guy says, no, I didn't. I mean, he was just so embarrassed, he just says, no, I didn't. I gave you the right change. He says, I gave you a 5 and you gave me $7 back. They argued, and my dad said, I'm not leaving the store until you make this right. Now, some of us, after about the third argument, we might just want to walk off with the money. But he had some character, and I liked that. It was early impressions, and it meant a lot to me. He died 51 years ago. I was 24 on May 4th, 1971, today. And there's not a day I don't think about him. It is pretty good. Where did you get your integrity foundational blocks? As I've been older, I've thought about a lot of things. Since Jamie asked me to do this back in January, I've been sort of cataloging my life. Old people do that. They start looking back and they say, do you remember when we did all that stuff out there? Started looking at the cataclysmic and the good and kind of just figuring it out. And I just had this idea about a tapestry. If you've been to Europe and you've seen one castle, you've seen them all. That's all I got to say about that. No offense, I'm sorry. My UK friend here I beg your pardon. I'll take that out of the script. Tapestries are really something. They could fill that whole wall, or they could just be a little thing you put here. Strings that are woven into a picture. Strings. You know, you look at the front of it and you say, well, this guy had a chaotic life. I don't know what he had, but that's the front of the tapestry. My tapestry is about done. The good, the bad, the ugly. My tapestry is about done. The back of the tapestry looks like this. If you've ever had a tapestry, turn it around sometime if you can get it off the wall of a castle and look at it, because it's chaos. Chaos. But it didn't look like chaos when I got to this side. So I've been looking at the back and I've been looking at the front of my life. You have a tapestry. You have a tapestry that you are putting a string at a time through, a thread at a time. What's that look like? How's the question? Foot stomp number 1. You got that right there, and if I don't see any writing, I'm going to just wait till you do. Foot stomper number 1. How's my tapestry going, and what's my next thread in it? What's my next thread? At your table in front of you, you have a string. See strings? Anybody got a string? Take that string out. Now, I'm not much for cute. If you know me, you know that's true. And I'm not much for gimmicks. I don't like that either. Take this string, put it by your sink. Take this string, put it around your arm, put it around your keys, put it somewhere on your dash, and every day think about what's the next thread in your tapestry, and what do you want it to be like? Now, it turns out that the Lord in my life has taken the chaotic back of several things and woven it in the front for a blessing. That's happened to me over and over. And I think that our own ability to take a tapestry and do it ourselves is a bit over the top. But it might not be if you've got a partner. My life's verse is, trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will... What? Make your path straight, or your way straight. When we get to the word character in a minute, we're going to find out that it could also be something like a way, a walk. Take seriously your tapestry. I wish I'd started taking seriously my tapestry when I was young as you, Brad. I'd have a really pretty thing, wouldn't I? My goodness. If I polled this room and I asked the following question, I would get 100% yes. The question is, forgot to do this. The question is, do I want to be known as a person of character and integrity? Not anybody in here would say they don't, I suspect. It's an important issue. Sometimes we conflate the words character and integrity. They're so close together, so close together. Today we're going to kind of break them apart a bit. I'm using character today as a walk, a way, the actions our followers see. It's an activity that I want to concentrate a bit on. Your way, your walk. Integrity is kind of the backdrop, what you have learned, what you've seen, kind of the foundation you have, the unction of your Creator, your personality. There's a lot of things integrity is. It's almost like a backdrop. Now, we love Broadway shows, but we don't go to the weird ones, Kinky Boots and stuff. But The Phantom and Les Mis and The Lion King are really good. We've seen all of them several times. The messaging. But in the theater, you'll see something called a backdrop. The backdrop is the backdrop is a theme, something that doesn't change much. If you just think of Les Mis and the barricade, if you think of the Phantom and down deep underneath, when you think of the Lion King and the desert in Africa, the backdrop, we have a backdrop. It's closely aligned to integrity. And then when the play starts, people actually come out and they demonstrate different things here in front of you that reflect the backdrop. And that's what I'm calling character for us today. Just for today. You can conflate it all day tomorrow. But today, character. What am I doing? What does it look like? The origins of character are pretty interesting. The word picture originally was a worker with a really hard instrument, pointed, engraving metal over and over and over and over and over until it dug down into a design for a plate or for armor. That's kind of the word picture of character. It has some constants to it. It has some depth to it. It has some definition to it. We use character in all kinds of ways. Cartoon characters. I bet someone popped to your mind right then. Tom and Jerry or something. Do you remember Wile E. Coyote? Do you remember the Roadrunner? He only had 2 words. What was it? Beep, beep. Jeez, I'm so proud of you. I didn't think anybody would get that. You knew what to depend on when you turned it on. You knew Wile was going to chase, and you knew that beep, beep was coming. Movies, Harrison Ford, Clint Eastwood, you know when they say starring Harrison Ford, it's going to be jumping out of Air Force One or Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's going to be something like that. He never disappointed you because of his character. TV. I'll show what we watch by telling you this. Michael Weathersby as Dr. Jason Bull. Anybody ever watch Bull on CBS? You can depend on what he's going to do. Depend on him as a character. Donnie Wahlberg as Danny in Blue Bloods. He's a horse's rear. And he proves it every show. How about Mark Harmon as Leroy Jethro Gibbs on NCIS? Anybody watch NCIS? He's the same every day. Every episode opens up by saying, grab your gear, a dead Marine. And that's what starts the show. You can depend on that character. You can depend on that character. You hear he's a real character, don't you? You can hear it. She was out of character when she danced on the boss's table at the Christmas party. Out of character. Maybe what they weren't expecting. This building has character. This building has integrity. It's not sinking down in a hole, unless Travis hadn't told us something. It's sturdy, it's defined, it's strong, but it also has character. It's the only church I've been to where you had to rearrange the whole hall 3 times for 3 different kind of meetings. That's the character of the place. This is the only church I've ever been to that had a hole over here that had the loudest kids in America blowing up through the hole So they would come right in here and bother you, Scotty. It had character. There was something going on. Something going on. A real church for real people. That doesn't sound like integrity. That sounds like a walk. That sounds like a way. You get the point. People have character. Putin and Zelensky. We could go on all day on the difference in character. Jack Welch, Bill Gates, and Jeff Bezos. I only met one of those, Jack Welch, when I was with Martin Marietta and we bought GE Aerospace, and I was in his office, and he's also a horse's patootie. Yet he is revered as leader. Revered. These other two cats, Gates and Bezos, richest people in the world, but can't keep a family together. So we have character, but then we don't have character. The pickup truck on Parker Road, doing 55 mile an hour speed, 6 lanes, doing 75, jumping lanes, and when he gets to the corner of Hess Road and Parker at the left turn signal, he waits till it's red, then he goes and T-bones somebody and kills him. Just happened a few weeks ago. Now, the guy took the driver's exam. He knows what to do. He knows what's right. He's chosen not to do it. And it's in that choosing thing that our character kind of gets a little bit hosed up. What do you choose to do when something comes up? You've probably heard the saying, the door of blessing swings open on the hinges of what? Obedience. It's a theme in the Bible. It's a theme a lot of places. It's a theme wherever we go. The door of blessing swings open on the hinges of obedience. It might be that the door of character, our walk, our way, what your followers see in your leadership, moves smoothly on the hinges of integrity until it's handled poorly and becomes unhinged. Brings us to the next foot stomp, I hope. How am I handling the door of character? I love this picture because the right-hand door is stuck and the left-hand door is stuck, and nobody's been in and out of it for years, but it doesn't swing anymore because somebody treated it in a way. How you're treating your character. Are you ignoring it? Foot stomp number 2. And I'm really going to be reading this because this is always hard for me to get through. Who comes to mind in your life that is or was a person of character and integrity? Right now, just take a minute, mull over that. Who is it? Everybody got somebody in their mind? Maybe good, bad, whatever. The first person I think of is my best friend who is here today. This person has demonstrated character since I first met them, through thick and thin, a pure-hearted person who does what they say, the kind of person that RSVPs when they're not even going. Nobody does that anymore. Thinks the best of others, was part of the U.S. team to Moscow and Kyiv with astronaut Bruce McCandless, the guy that floated around on the manned maneuvering unit in space. He's the guy that did that. He went with us. Along with a Russian translator, we were asked by the U.S. government after the wall went down to go assess the former Soviets, ICBM capability, launch capability, and satellite capability. And by the way, smuggled 200 Bibles on the corporate airplane into Moscow from Denver. Russian translations. This Gulf Stream never knew what happened. The corporation never knew what happened. My best friend met a stranger on a bridge on a dark and wet night in Moscow to hand off to somebody a box she had never seen before. Character. Say hello to my best friend and my first and second wife, Martha Lynn Henshaw. That's Jesus. My first and second wife, and this is what I really need to read and get through without just being engaged at 18, married at 19, and in a colossal lapse of character. Working those 100 hours in the Pentagon, and frankly, out of sheer disobedience on my part. At the 15 years of marriage, I was unfaithful. We were separated 2 years and divorced 2 years. I knew what was right and chose to act out in my character, putting my family at great risk. Martha Lynn stayed the course, tended to our family, relied on the Lord, and like the prodigal son, when I came to my senses one night in a snowstorm in Washington, D.C., in my hotel room, and out of blind obedience and the unction of the Holy Spirit, Christ healed our marriage. We just took a step toward each other. Our first date was at our second wedding. We'll be remarried 35 years next week. The foot stomp, though, is about you. That can't happen to me, can it? That's the question for you to answer. It can happen in a heartbeat. Stress, burnout, unfocused, no bandwidth, overwhelming external forces. You bet it can happen to you. The Lord took this and made that in our life. You and He can get a picture, a tapestry. Where are you putting the next string? How am I handling the door of character? That can't happen to me. Well, it can. And I've got a few more stomps. That's a third one, right? This fourth one will seem like nonsense and so obvious to everybody. But I want you to think about it harder than you have. I'm amazed in my practice the numbers of companies at the C-suite level and 3 levels down that have lost the main thing when we go in to try to find out what's wrong. They're serving each other, not the customer. They're all about new business and not current customer interaction. Or they're either all about the customer interaction and the problems and not focused on new business. In a church, in a nonprofit, in university, places I've been on boards that I've seen this happen. Very easy to do, to lose focus. A mark of maturity for the leader at any level, in any situation, is to keep the main thing the main thing. We've been in a lot of churches. Martha Lynn and I have been church, north, south, east, west. We've seen a lot of ABC, attendance, buildings, and contributions. Not take your next step with Jesus. Meet you where you are. There's a difference what the main thing is and keeping it. I don't like a lot of ads, but there's one ad that I love in this vein, and it is it's a conference room. All the VPs are there, and they've kind of called a meeting, and in comes the president. His hair is disheveled, his tie is apart, you can tell that the guy is oversubscribed. And he says, "What is it this time?" to the little pointed heads around the table. "What is it this time? Is it IT? Is it a capital need? Is it somebody broke in? I mean, tell me, what is it this time that we have to go do?" And a little guy who hasn't earned his way to the table. You've been in these conference rooms. They have these seats on the back where the lesser-known serfs get to sit down. Little guy sheepishly raises his hand, and of course the president says, "What?" And the little guy says, "We make shirts, and we're not doing it very well." The main thing. What is it in your organization that the main thing is, and how do you keep it? I guess I've had 10,000 PowerPoint presentations to me by somebody coming in my organizations and going through a beautiful pitch. I mean, the guy's he's been working a month on this thing, on this PowerPoint presentation. And I'm thinking, man, this is really good. Until I figure out that I have no way to evaluate it. And I use the following quote, and I'd love you to use it sometime in your leadership. Just a minute, could we drop back a minute? I love that. I love to use it, and I love hearing it. Could we just drop back a minute? This is one of the better presentations I've ever seen, and I really have enjoyed it. You worked hard, Sammy, and I really like you, and you're doing great work here at this company. But could you tell me why I'd want to do this? How this fits into where we're going? And you say, you might even have a chart up front sometime. I don't care. Maybe you may want to just put a chart up front on why we're doing it to start off with. Suddenly, every pitch you get has that first chart. And then you can argue about whether it's the main thing or not. But it sets the course for people focusing on what's real and staying there. Foot stomp. Keep the main thing the main thing. Next foot stomp is competent. Now, I don't know about you. When I'm going into surgery, somebody might say, "Well, I sure hope the guy's a Christian." And I say, and I get frowns on this, but I say it anyway. It's okay with me if he's a Christian, but I want to know that he knows what he's doing. Competency. It's hard to believe, but people take over the helm of groups from 5 people to 5,000 and know they're not competent to do it. And by the way, everybody that does that is not competent to do it. Even Moses says, "I can't do this." Seek competence for yourself the first 90 days. Be all over that place and know exactly what a gimbal is on a spacecraft. Know exactly what happens when you oversubscribe your employees. Foot stomper. Be competent. This is one of my favorites, and that's cognizance. Now, I don't mean putting a glass up to the wall and listening to what they're doing on the next office over. I love the story of Nehemiah. This cat went to try to rebuild a wall somewhere, and the very first, and he had to come a long way. A couple of his buddies and he, at night, decided they're going to go find out what this is before they do anything else. They get there, they look around, the wall's down, the gates are down. They were cognizant of what's going on in their operation. They're not eavesdropping, they're not spying, but they do enough infiltration of every department to know what's going on so that they have credibility with their people. I've seen in companies where somebody's at the top who has one thing in mind, and that's selling the corporation. They don't have a clue of what the electronic part is they're making. Don't know how to do it. The people know they don't know how to do it, and it breeds mediocrity. Leaders who know what's going on and are cognizant are much more effective than those that aren't. That doesn't mean you micromanage. It means that you are aware of what's going on. And you've got enough friends around to tell you what's really going on without having to spy. I love this consistency. I mean, how consistent am I in my organization, the promotions I'm giving? Oh, you ever promote somebody with a guy right next to him just as good, and then suddenly you've got fiasco on your hands? Ooh. The guidance you put out is consistent. You're clear on your responsibility, accountability, and authority, and your communication you put out. I just happen to be a fan of the CDC because of poison control or whatever. They could use a little consistency. Different levels of government could use a little bit of consistency when it comes to important issues in the nation. Don't be inconsistent. You'll lose the power of the office you're in when they don't know who to listen to. Be a closer. My goodness. When you dither as the leader, the workforce withers away. It's really true. This doesn't mean you don't do a lot of due diligence. You do. You seek others' opinions, and then slam the door closed, go inside and make the decision, and be consistent in what you decided. I helped a firm recently divest a piece of the firm, and I went with the divestiture for the integration. They sold to a venture capitalist, came over here, had no name for the firm yet. 90 days go by before the guy came up with we were yelling up and down the halls, you got to name this thing. Our customers in the Intel world would tell us when we go over there at Langley, how's your no-name company doing? Embarrassing. You know, the real kicker here is make the decision and be a step function kind of guy and gal that says, we're going to go here. You will, like build a building. We're going to go here, energizes the whole place, particularly if it's the main thing and good rationale. Don't be a ditherer. Ask yourself the question, there's only one gift you can give yourself. I love this. I love this. This is not new. I didn't invent this. This has been around a long time. Give yourself the gift of commitment as a leader and even a follower. There's nothing more miserable than one of your followers who's trying to go to another company and doesn't have any longer the gift, the commitment you need. Give yourself the gift of commitment to your faith, your family, and your calling. Have you given that gift to yourself yet? And you can do it. It makes a world of difference. When you commit to a church without saying, well, I'm not going to commit because they got this and I'm not fully on board here. The last one. Aren't you glad? You all thought those were howitzers here, but it's not. It's something else. Are you a horizontal leader? Brad here was in my marriage class. It took him 3 years, he and his wife, to get through the class. We graduated in 3 times. The first time I said, I want you all to be a horizontal couple. And some guy in the back says, amen, brother. We like horizontal. Okay. In our work life, this will be hard to see, but I'm going to put it up there. You see idea. You see research. You see design. You see prototype. You see raising the money. You see marketing, sales, distribution, and service. What do you connect this with in your business? I mean, what is it in your business, State Farm or wherever? Horizontal across departments, horizontal across locations. What is it that ties all this together? Come on. Mission. People, okay. But you're doing really good. Come on now, you guys that run businesses. What is this thing?
Common goal.
Common goal, thank you.
Your faith.
Faith. I'm not buzzing that, man. That's always going to be right. It's the business plan. It's to say, if we do this across, and they're operating together rather than in silos, maybe we have a chance in getting down here in sales. Now I want to switch just a minute, and this is called personal life. If I just turn this around, my lovely wife and I glued this together. Isn't that fantastic? Let's see what it says. My thought life. Whew. My family life. My money life. My friends. My travel. My spiritual. Media I watch. My recreation. My work. If you just think about where you are in your work life, anywhere, the model has always been work like crazy. I'm nice to everybody. We work together. It's just a fantastic thing, and go home and bark at your kids. That would not be a horizontal leader. What is it about our thought life that we wouldn't want to creep in other places? What is it about our media life that we might not bring up with the family? There is a thought that character might be something that puts these things together. Do I have the same character here as I have here? We will all go to our grave being totally successful at this. This is hard. Who am I? In what condition? Now, I know you take your PowerPoint charts and all that at work. You wouldn't go home and have a PowerPoint chart with your 12-year-old. A little 50 chart, let me show you how to behave. That wouldn't be it. But your demeanor and your way and your walk might be closer together by integrating it. Well, I broke it, so we're done. We're going to have a little Q&A.